Hello. I wanted to go ahead and do a full guide through and explanation on day one, um, because I know it can be a bit confusing. So I'll just go over it and like from start to finish what I would do. So let's go ahead. I'll sign in. I'll try to make it relatively quick, um, but I'll be as detailed as I can. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna go to my folder. Sorry for the delay. I should have had it open, but that's okay. Okay, let's make a new part studio. Okay, let's get started. It's only been, what, 40 seconds? That's fine. Okay, let's take a look. So we have a cube, right? So that's the first thing I noticed. What's the general shape of the object and what's the orientation? So like we mentioned before, the default kind of view in drawings and things, it's what's going to be called the isometric view. So the isometric view, and let me show you what that is. It's a combination of the front, top, and side view, but basically you can go here and click isometric, but it's pretty similar to this intersection between this top corner between the top, front, and right. So remember the orientation cube we can click on faces to orient relative to those, and we can also click on corners. So if we click on this top corner between the top, front, and right, that's going to be pretty much this view. So when I'm going to be making this cube, I'm going to be making it off this orientation. So my bottom face, the bottom face of the cube, like if you were to lie it on the table, is going to lie on this top plane because it matches where that cube would go. If you can imagine, if you can imagine where a cube's going to go, it's going to be like this. We're going to have the views pretty much align. Does that make sense? It's going to be aligned. I'm going to make the object based on that. And now obviously you can make it anywhere you wanted to, but just for reference, that's where I'm going to make mine. So I'm going to start with, since it looks like, I'm going to start just with a sketch, with a base sketch. Remember, we can make sketches and extrude them to make objects. So I'm gonna make imagine I'm making this from base up, but you can make it any way you want to. It's just whatever's most convenient. So the first thing I look for in the drawing is like, what are the base dimensions of this cube? If I had to make like just a square and extrude it, what would the dimensions of that square be? So I'm gonna look in these dimensions here, and I talked about this once, but I'll talk about it again. When you have dimensions, it's going to be really helpful to look at these arrows. So right now you have a lot of things going on in this drawing. But the key thing to look at is arrows. So like, look, if we look at this edge of this cube here, and then this edge of this cube here, the arrows go up to that line and whatever it is that they're marking. So looking at this, it looks like the distance from one edge to one edge is 1 inch, and the distance from another edge to another edge is another inch. So I'm just looking here and getting the base dimensions. So that's how I'm going to get started. I'm going to make on my top face, remember, because I'm making basically the base. See how I clicked on the top corner? I'm going to make it on the top face, and now I'm going to just extrude upward, like I'm building like a building. And you can do this anyway, but that's how we're going to do it. Now I'm going to make a rectangle, but it's going to be a center rectangle. There's different types. There's corner rectangle, which is by clicking on two corners, but the one I want, and others, but the one I want is the center point rectangle. And the advantage of that is I can make everything based off the origin, and that can be really handy later. So I'm going to just click once in the center and then drag outward and click again. Now the first thing I'm going to do is you can do this in any order, but I'm going to make opposite sides equal. So right now, to move objects, you click on vertices, but right now, both sides of this rectangle, both lengths, the width and the height are undefined. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the width and the height equal to each other, make them the same length. And I'm going to so basically that makes it a square, right? And now I'm going to make this an inch. So I'm going to press this dimension tool up here and click once on this length, drag outward, click again, and set it to 1 inch. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this. So looking at this face, this view of 4 dots over here of the 4 sides is this view up here in the top. So this 1 inch dimension is telling us the height of this cube, whereas this dimension is telling us this dimension over here, and this dimension on the 2-inch side is telling us that. And I'll show you what I mean. I'll make a quick sketch. Just so this 2-inch face right here, this orientation corresponds with this up here. This other orientation, I'm going to just be as descriptive as possible. Feel free to skip it if I'm going over things that, like, make sense. But I just want to cover everything because I know sometimes it can be confusing. So see how those drawings align? And so essentially this 1-inch dimension, again, remember the arrows, it goes up to here and this other arrow goes up to here. So this dimension over here corresponds to basically, the width of this cube. This, let's see, we're gonna go a different color, blue. This dimension here is gonna correspond with the height of our cube, right? Because it's basically, and see the arrows, see how we have, I think there's a way, whoa. But see how that arrow points to the line, which goes to the top edge, and this arrow points to the line, which goes to the bottom edge. Okay, and now we're gonna do the last one just so the point's clear. And this top part of this drawing, again, oriented on the 4-inch face, is this line. So that kind of tells us the base, the width, and the height, right? And so if you imagine like a top-down view of this cube, just a flat view, a flat view would just look like a top-down view. This is gonna be, I'm gonna save this, but I'm gonna make a new one. Snip. This again is gonna be, right? Oh, it doesn't make me make a new one, but I'm just gonna go ahead. I'll just go ahead and make a new one. You know what? I'll just copy this. It's gonna be, I'm sorry, I'm doing this as I'm going. I didn't have this pre-planned or anything. I'm just kind of making it as I'm going. Okay, but we have this view, right? And so if we look at the top view now, which is a view from the top, if you imagine looking at the cube from the top, that this pink over here is gonna be this dimension, right? And then the green is gonna be this dimension over here. So basically we're just making a top view with these dimensions that we found in our drawing. So we're like, okay, it's 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch. So now we have our base of our cube, and now we're going to extrude it to the height. So the height is going to be 1 inch. So I'm going to extrude this, and I'm going to click on the sketch. And there's a couple ways to do it. You can click on it in your view, in your view plane over here, or you can click on your sketch. So I'm going to click on this face here, just for starters. And I'm going to extrude it the height, which is 1 inch. So now we have our base cube. These rounded corners are fillets, and we'll add those at the end. But to get started, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. So let's take a look at that original drawing. So just like we have, I talked about this again, but whenever I'm talking, visuals really help me, so I'll include that for you too. So I'm just going to be as detailed as possible. So if we look at this view over here, all our views of our part line up with each other. So I'll explain what that means. So let's orient ourselves with this four dotted face, this four-parted dotted face of our part. So this on our main part is going to correspond over here on the drawing. And what do I mean when I say all of the views of the part line up? Well, if you look directly to the left, or to the right, I mean, you're going to see the 2 dotted view. And so the 2 dotted view directly to the left is going to be basically like moving over one face on the cube. I'm drawing hand signals, but you can't see them. But just imagine traveling like beep, 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 over to this face now. And now you have this side. So that's what I mean when it's directly to the, when the drawings of the part line up. So you can see looking directly to the left is going to be basically moving over around the cube, and that's going to give you this face over here. And notice how in this face, the yellow is exactly horizontal. We're going to do a different color. The is exactly horizontal with this part here. And basically, they're going to exactly be, if you imagine drawing your finger along the face of the cube, it's going to exactly line up and be horizontal. So that's what I kind of mean. And so see how directly now, I'm going to do a different color. Directly above is going to be the one face cube. It's going to be like moving up and going up a face. Does that make sense? So this, like, these different views that are shown here are kind of like unwrapping this cube. Like, moving to the left, moving to the right is like going right a face, like rotating the cube, and going up is going to be like looking at this top view. So they all kind of align, and hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to start off with making the one on the top. And so we know it's at the top because we can look at this view here and like, okay, it's at the top. So what I'm going to do is, the first time we made a sketch on a plane, but this time I'm going to make a sketch on a face. So I'm going to click on the top face of the cube because that's where we want it to show up. And now I'm going to click sketch. And now I'm going to orient myself by going back to our orientation cube, and I'm going to click the top face. And now I'm going to zoom in. And because we made our original sketch based off the origin, now it's really nice because looking in the sketch, the center is the origin. So I can just make a circle from here and it's going to be from the center. And I'll show you how to verify the dimensions to make sure it's correct. But now I'm going to go to the circle tool, which is this one up here, click once for the center, drag out, and click again. And this circle has a dimension of 0.2. If you look here, this little circle with a line drawn through it, that line is this icon here represents the diameter of a circle. So if you look closely, the line drawn through that is like the diameter, so it's the diameter. So 0.2 is going to be, that's going to be the dimension, the diameter. Times 21 means that same dimension of that circle is repeated 21 times. And so basically that means it's for repeated dimensions. So if you count the actual number of circles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. There's 21 of them, and all of them have a dimension of 0.2. And then what does this last part mean? This is the depth of the extrusion. So these circles are going to be extruded inwards, like removing material 0.1 of an inch. So hopefully that makes sense. But the diameter is 0.2. So I'm going to go over here, click on the dimension tool, and click on the outer edge, drag my mouse outward, and click again. And I'm going to set that to 0.2. And because we made it on the origin, when you're making a circle, these auto constraints pop up, right? So see how when I'm hovering directly over the center, see that little icon there on the side? That's a constraint. That's coincident. And coincident basically means, I'll show you exactly what it means and what Onshape defines. It makes two or more entities coincident. Basically, they touch each other. So if I click here, and now you see that little icon, that means that the center of the circle is going to be exactly on the origin. And now you see we won't be able to move the circle around. But like, let's say I didn't make it on the origin. I made it somewhere else. I can just click here, and now I can click on the center of that circle and drag it around anywhere I want. It's not constrained. But when we're making that initial circle, we can make it be coincident with the origin. So hopefully that makes sense. And now, how do we verify? Okay, but look, this has these dimensions here, 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. How do we make sure it looks like it's in the center, but how do we make sure? Well, first of all, you know it's a 1 inch by 1 inch cube, right? So that is exactly half. But if you wanted to check, I can click on the center of the circle, the origin, and click on the outer edge of the cube. And now if I go to the dimension tool, you'll be able to see a couple of things. It'll show you the minimum distance between both points, but you can also see a breakdown between these coordinates. So if you look at the red dotted line from here to here, this distance, see the red dotted line, is going to be equal to this, it's 1/2 inch. And then the green distance is going to tell you the vertical distance, right? The distance from here to here, which is like the same as if it were over here, like the distance from here to here. And you can see it's 1/2 inch. So it does match up in our drawing, and the circle is exactly in the center. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press check mark to confirm our sketch, and I'm going to click extrude. And I'm going to change it. These extrudes, the circles go inwards. They're removing material. So I'm going to click remove. And now remember how I said we can click on either the face that we want to in extrudes, or we can also click on the sketch on the side. So I'm going to click the sketch on the side. And remember the depth is going to be 0.1. So I'm going to set it 0.1. And bam, look, we got our very first face done. And you can click on that corner, that top corner, like I said. And now you see how this is lining up here. So I'm going to do this 4-sided face, which again is right below on the view and is going to be right like rotated down one. So I'm going to click on this face and I'm going to click sketch. And now we're going to do this. And now just to keep things simple, I'm going to make 4 circles. And then I'll show you how to use a little linear pattern tool. I know we talked about it, but I don't know, even if it's just as reference, I want to show you. So I'm going to start off with making 4 circles. And remember, all the 4 circles have an equal diameter. So I'm going to just place them down randomly. And I'm going to click on the outer edge of all of them. And I'm going to make them all equal. And they have a dimension of 0.2. Remember how that? So I can just do one of them and all of them will update to be the right size because I added that equal constraint. And now I'm going to dimension from the center of the circles, but you can see from here to here, I'm going to just, a lot of these dimensions are like kind of overwhelming, but you can see it's from the top, it's going to be, if you look at the arrows, it's from here to here. This whole like horizontal distance here is going to be 1/4 inch. If you look at the arrows here, this vertical distance is going to be 1/4 inch. So from here to here, remember that dimension view from earlier is going to be 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click dimension, and I'm going to do it a couple different ways just so you see. You can dimension from a point to a line, and I'm going to set it to be 0.25. And I'm going to do from a point to a line. Remember, there's different ways of doing dimensions, but I'll do different ways for each one. I'm going to set it at 0.25. Now, the other thing we can do for this bottom one you can see also is, if you look vertically, also is 0.25 from the side. So just like I clicked on here and then the line, I can also click on the 2 points. If you remember how we did from a circle to a corner, we had the breakdown. You can kind of specify, I'll show you. I clicked once on the center, and now I'm going to click on the corner. And see how we have the 3 options? That remember those 3 dimensions from earlier? We had the minimum distance, the horizontal part, and the vertical part. So I'm going to set the horizontal part. I'm going to click, I'm going to do the horizontal part. I'm going to click confirm, and I'm going to set it to 0.25 inches. Now, what's the distance from here to the top? Well, let's look at our dimensions from the center of the circle. So I'm going to look horizontally. See that arrow pointing? That line, that goes all the way up to the top. And that from here to here, from here to the top is going to be 0.75. So I'm going to click dimension, and I'm not going to do the corner this time. I'm just going to go from here to the top face and make that 0.75 inches. Cool. Now, what am I going to do? I can do a couple things. These dimensions kind of just repeat. For this other sideways, for this other circle, it's also going to be 1/4 inch. For this bottom circle, it's also going to be 0.75 inches. And you can see that they're exactly horizontal in the drawing. So what I'm going to do, just to change it up a bit, I'm going to add a horizontal constraint between the center of this circle and the center of this circle, and I'm going to click horizontal to make them horizontal. Now this circle is constrained in space to move only horizontally. Relative to this other circle. The 2 points are horizontal, and I'm going to do the same thing for this other one and may add a horizontal constraint. And notice another thing, these 2 circles over here are vertical. Isn't that pretty cool? They're vertical, so I'm going to add a vertical constraint, clicking on the center and on the center and making them vertical. And now you can see by adding constraints, we're limiting the position of where these can be. So what's next? What can we do next? What dimension are we missing? I think we're missing the only motion that we have right here is side-to-side motion. So we're only missing a sideways dimension from here to another part of the cube. So if I look from here, the center of this circle to the outer edge, looking vertically, the center of this circle to the outer edge is 0.75, 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to click on the center, and I'm going to do the corner because I want to. And we have the minimum distance, and I'm going to do that horizontal distance, and it's 0.75. And notice I click enter, and now we have this fully defined. And notice there's way more dimensions on here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have 5, almost as many, but you can add constraints to minimize the amount of dimensions you have. Instead of adding another dimension from here to the top and from here to the top, we can just make horizontal and vertical constraints. Hopefully that makes sense. Now I'm going to click check mark to confirm, extrude, and remember these have a depth of 0.1 inches. So I'm going to make that a depth, change it from add to remove, and change it to 0.1. And I'm going to make it inwards. And now we have, click check mark to confirm. Now we have the 4 circles done. Oof, look, we're breezing through it. Okay, what's next? Now we're going to add this 2 circles. And for that one, I'm going to just draw them manually. And at the end, and for this, I'll do actually for this bottom one, I'll show you a linear pattern. So I'm going to just click on this face, check our drawing, make sure it lines up, and click sketch. And now I'm going to click this right face on the cube to orient us, and I'm going to zoom in with the scroll wheel. And now I'm going to add 2 circles, make them equal to each other, and set the diameter of them to be 0.2. So I'm going to press the dimension tool, click on the outer edge, click again, 0.2, make these 2 circles equal by pressing E or clicking up here. And now we're going to add our dimensions from here to the edge. So let's look. Let's look down because we do have a dimension down here. From here to the edge, looking at the arrows. See, these are pointing to that line. Check where the arrows point. From here to the edge. So basically from here to here, it's going to be a distance of 0.25. So I'm going to add a dimension of 0.25 from here to the edge, 0.25. From here to the edge, looking here vertically, 0.75 from here to here, looking at the arrows. And see, the arrows are on the inside, whereas here it's on the outside, but just check where they're pointing and you'll see how that works. So I'm going to make a dimension from here to the outer edge and make it 0.75. Bam, and now see where our circles are defined in space? They can't move at all side to side, but they can move vertically. So that shows me that we're missing a vertical dimension. So I'm going to look here, okay, well, how much distance is there from here maybe to any vertically, either from here to the top or from here to the bottom, but we do have a dimension here that's from here to the top. So look at the arrows, bam, to the top, 0.25. So I'm going to add a dimension, make it 0.25. And you can also move these. So I'm going to click and drag just so they look nicer. You can move them around. You can move the number, you can do all sorts of things. And now it's black, means it's fully defined and it can't move at all. And now we're missing just, let's look at this bottom one. It can't move at all side to side, but we're missing another vertical dimension. So from the center of the circle to the top, if you look at the side, beep, beep, it's 0.75. So, bam. And I know it can be kind of overwhelming because you look at the whole drawing and it's like, oh, look at all these dimensions. How am I going to do this? But it's just taking it one step at a time, because you see, we didn't even use all these dimensions. We only used like 2 of them. So we only used 1, 2, 3, 4. We only used 4 of them. And right here, there's way more. Like this 1-inch one is from earlier, and we didn't even have to look at it at all to make it. And now that everything is black, it's fully defined. I'm going to press check mark, extrude, click on the sketch, change it to remove 0.1 inches, check mark to confirm, and bam, look, we've got it. These faces line up. So what am I going to do next? Now I'm going to do the 6-sided face, which I'm going to use a linear pattern for. So remember our orientation from earlier, which is here. So the 4 inches directly above it is the 1 inch. So that's like moving upward. Directly to the right of it is the 2 inch, and that's like moving to the side. So directly below it is the 6-sided face. 6-sided, 6.6 indents, whatever you want to call them. So that's going to be directly like rotating. Instead of going above, it's going to be going below. So what that looks like, I click on the top. Instead of moving up pretend that I'm looking at the front. Instead of moving up to the top face, starting from the 4, I'm going to just go down, and you can click on these little, oh, wrong direction. I'm going to go down and go to the 6-sided face. So right here, right now, we're oriented to where we want to be. And the 6-sided face should be made here. Now notice it's kind of upside down, but that's okay. It should be based on this view right here. So now I'm going to get started. I'm going to make a linear pattern. So how do linear patterns work? Basically, you can make one element and then make an array of them after that. So I'm going to start with just this one circle and make the rest of these circles based on the distance between, because it's repetitive, right? So the distance from here, the distance from here to here is the same as from here to here. See how those repeat, and the distance from here to here is the same as the distance from here to here, and on the bottom and from here to here. So they kind of repeat, and you can kind of just set one distance downward and one distance to the horizontally, one vertical and one horizontal, and then the rest of them will just pop up. So I'm going to start with my first circle, which is going to be a diameter of 0.2, like we remember, and I'm going to define it in space. Basically, where is it? So from the top corner, it's 0.25 inches, looking at the arrows here to the edge, and from here to the top edge, it's 0.25 from here to here and 0.25 from here to here. And you can verify with those dimensions. So I'm going to set it with from here to the top corner, 0.25, here to the top corner, going vertically 0.25. And now this one is set in space. And now I'm going to repeat the 6. So just like I talked about, linear pattern is right here. If you're not sure how to find it, you can click search and type in linear pattern. And see how we have the 2 arrows? These 2 arrows basically control the directions of where our stuff is, where the array kind of basically is made. So I'll show you what that means. Imagine one of the directions is going from here with like an arrow, and then the other one is going over here. And basically these all, it's like, I don't know, kind of setting your axes a little bit, but I'm just going to click on you can click on these arrows to change their directions. So I'm going to make this one go down and this one go to the side, and see how they're lining up. And there's also these times 3x, 1x, and this controls how many of how many times should I pattern this in this direction. So if you look in this direction, we only have 1 and then 2. So I'm going to change this to be 2. And then in the bottom direction going downward, I have 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to change it to be 3. Double click and click 3. And now if you look, we can drag these arrows and basically change where these should go. And now I'm going to move these dimensions out of the way just so they're clear. I haven't yet confirmed this feature. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to confirm it. You left click and you see that icon next to the mouse. You left click to confirm. And right now, because these dimensions that are just arbitrarily there, everything's fully defined because the distance from here to here is set, and the distance from here to here is set in these dimensions. But these dimensions aren't wrong. So now what we can do is we can double click on them to change them. So I'm going to double click on this, and you can see the distance from here to here. Well, the distance from the center of this circle to the edge is 0.25 inches. The distance of the center of this circle to the edge is 0.75 inches. So the difference between these two is 0.75 minus 0.25. That's the difference. And you can just do that with your dimensions to make it a difference. And now the distance from here to here, well, how do I know? Well, you can do the same thing again and say, okay, well, the difference between 0.5 and 0.25 is 0.25. But let's say we didn't want to do that for some reason. I can just click on this dimension and get rid of it. And now, see how it's blue again? These aren't constrained vertically because the distance between these isn't set. And so we had this dimension which was setting the distance between here to here, but let's say we didn't have that or we couldn't calculate that for some reason. What we do know is the distance, the vertical distance from the center of this circle to the top edge is 0.5 inches. So I can just get rid of the old dimension like I did just now and add a new one from the center of the circle to the top edge and make it 0.5, was it? And bam, now everything's fully defined and it solved it, essentially. And now I can click and everything's black, so we're all in the clear. I'm going to check to confirm, and look, we did it. We have the six-sided face, so I'm going to click check mark, remove, change the direction, and I'm going to make it 0.1. Fantastic. And so look, even though the 6 wasn't in this top drawing up here, we knew because it was below that it would be right under in that direction. So now what's left? We did this side, this side, this side, this side. So we've just got these other two left, and it'll be okay. So looking at I'm gonna go to this 4 side, and again, it's like rotating to get to the 5. And you can also just click on the left or like if you were just looking here, you could be like, oh, okay, once is going to be the left, front, and then left. And you can just click on the left up top there. Now we're going to have this 5 pattern. How are we on time? A little long. That's fine. Never hurt anyone. And I'm going to click sketch. If you can follow along as you're doing this, that would be awesome. And we can get it done. And so I'm going to take a look and I'm going to be like, okay, what's actually happening here in the sketch? We've got all these dimensions, but what do I see when I'm looking at this? So just like we have a pattern here with an array of these in both directions, I'm going to take a look and see if I can actually find one here. So we have the center circle, and we can kind of see how going in one direction, we have another circle, and then going in the other direction, we have another circle here. So we have essentially these 4 circles that are in a pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. The horizontal distance from here to here is the same as from here to here, and this vertical distance is the same as from here to here as here to here. So you can make this a linear pattern. Basically, make this top circle defined and add these 4 based on the distance between here and all the other elements, and then just add an extra circle in the center. So that's what we're actually going to do. I'm going to make a top circle 0.2, as we know, and set it in space. I wonder if it'll be 0.25 and 0.25. Guess what? It is 0.25 and 0.25 from here to the top and from here to the side. So I'm going to press dimension. I'm going to do from here to this side here, set it to 0.25, do this. I'm going a little fast, but hopefully everything that I'm doing makes sense. 0.25, 0.25. Cool. I'm going to move it over here because I kind of don't like where it looks, and see what we're matching up. Now we're going to add a linear pattern. I'm going to click here, click linear pattern, click on my arrows, change direction. So now we're going down and to the side, which matches up here, down and to the side. And it's going to be, whoa. I see how I confirmed that? I accidentally did that. That was an accident. And now I don't have the other direction and I can't change it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply Control Z to undo. So I'm going to click it again, linear pattern again. It's not a problem. And now I'm going to change the direction, and it's 2 by 2. So I'm going to set this 2 by 2 and drag these arrows roughly to get them in place. And now I'm going to zoom in. And let's say these dimensions are useless. I'll get rid of them both. Just to reiterate the other thing that I said earlier, is you don't need those dimensions necessarily. Right now, these are all just defined as they're linear. It's a linear pattern, but you don't necessarily need those 2 dimensions. So I'll just set an arbitrary direction. So from the center of this circle to the edge, looking vertically here to here, here to the edge is 0.75. So I'm going to add a dimension from here to the edge, 0.75, and from, let's say, this bottom one from here to the top, it's 0.75. From here to the top, 0.75. And now we don't necessarily we didn't have to have the distance between each of them, but we can just add the dimensions that we know. And bam, we've got this. And now we've got our center circle in the center, which again is 0.5 and 0.5, which we do know to be exactly in the center. So how do we do that? Let's say right now we don't have the origin here exactly where I want it to. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. We can add a center and add the 0.5 dimension, the 0.5 dimension. But what I want to show you is auto constraints. See how I have the origin here? I can make it coincident. I can add a circle here, but that's not what I want. What I want is this circle to be vertical with the origin. So if I hover over the origin, and then I drag my cursor upwards, see that little vertical line? That means the center of the circle that I draw is going to be exactly vertical with the origin. So if I click here, you can see now the center of the circle is vertical with the origin. But now what I can also do is there's a thing there you can, when you're hovering over lines, you can find their midpoint. So see that little dot that pops up just like as I'm hovering over the line, that point? That is a midpoint. That is the center of this line. So let's say the distance of this line is, I'm going to click on this edge and dimension it. Oh, that won't actually work. I'm going to use the measure tool. Let's say it's an inch across. The midpoint is going to be half of that distance, so 0.5. Hopefully that makes sense. So just like I made it the center of the circle vertical with the origin, I can also make the center of the circle horizontal with a midpoint, a point that doesn't actually exist yet. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do both of them at the same time. Well, first, no, I'll show you how to do it horizontal to the midpoint, and then I'll show you how to do both. If I hover over, the midpoint will appear. See that little constraint there? See that icon? That is a midpoint constraint. So basically, if I click now, it'll be on the center of the line, but that's not actually what I want, right? This isn't, I don't want it to be on the center of the line. What I want it to be is horizontal to the center of the line. So if I hover over, see that midpoint constraint, now I can move my mouse horizontally, and now basically what it'll do is add the midpoint and then make the center of my circle horizontal to that midpoint. See how it added the midpoint? And now the center of my circle is horizontal with that point that we added. Pretty cool, huh? Now what I can do is click on the center of the circle and the origin and make them vertical. And bam, now we've got the center of our circle exactly defined. It's black. It's where we want it to be. It's vertical with the origin and horizontal with the midpoint. But we can do both of those at the exact same time, just when I'm making a circle. This might blow your mind, but we're going to do it. I'm going to start with the origin, hover over the origin, see that coincident icon, and move vertically. Now I'm going to hover over the midpoint, move to horizontally, and now we have that horizontal. See that the orange dotted lines, and now if I hover over here, you can see both the vertical and the horizontal lines. It is both vertical from the origin and horizontal from the midpoint. So in one swoosh, I can add it, and now I just click and draw our circle, and see the center is exactly defined. It automatically added the midpoint, automatically added the horizontal constraint, and automatically added the vertical constraint, which I think is pretty awesome. That's kind of cool, huh? And now I can just click on the outer edge, and I'm going to make it equal to this circle with the equal constraint. So see how we just did that all with constraints? We didn't even add any dimensions here. We just auto-constrained it to be exactly in the center of the circle because we knew it was half an inch and half an inch. We're doing so great. Oh my gosh, we have one face left. Okay, let's confirm this. Extrude, remove, 0.1 inches. Click on the sketch, inward, and confirm. It's looking pretty great. And remember, let's say, I don't know what I'm looking at. Look at our cube right now. We're looking at the left face. Let's say I want to reorient myself. I can rotate around until I see the front, top, and right, and click, and look, boom. Look, we're so close. We've just got the back face to do. So, you know how we just did the 5 face over here, and we were just looking at it from here? Directly to the left of it is going to be the 3 face. So if I click on the left face, directly to the left of it, beep, 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 beep. Oh, wrong direction. Directly to the left of it is going to be the back. So you can also just look, okay, left to the left of it is going to be the back. And now I can just click on the back up here in the cube, and bam, we're oriented. Click on the face, click sketch. We're so close. We've got three circles. So I'm going to just quickly speed run. Click, click. Oh, see how it automated vertical from the origin? Do we want that? Yeah, I guess. It's 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. So we can have it be vertical from the origin. So circle, circle vertical from the origin. Why not? And then circle here. But let's say you didn't want it to be vertical from the origin. Because sometimes what you can do is you want to add something, but it auto constrains it, but it's not an auto constraint that you want. So let's say I'm just out here in space and see, oh, it's adding a horizontal constraint from the origin. Let's say I didn't want that. To disable auto constraints as you're drawing something, you can press Shift. And now it'll get rid of that auto constraint. So now no auto constraints will pop up because I'm holding down my left Shift key. But in this case, we do want an auto constraint, so I'm just going to make it vertical from the origin. Quickly going to make these all equal by clicking on the outer edge, pressing E, or clicking equal up here. I'm going to press E to make them all equal. Press dimension, which is the dimension tool. We're pressing D. Click once, outer, click again, 0.2. Bam, we've got 3 circles. We know this from here to the top edge is 0.25. From here to the side is 0.25. So I'm going to just do that again. Here to the top, here to the top, 0.25. If you're ever making a dimension and you need to cancel it, let's say I go from here to here. Ah, that's not what I wanted. You can press escape to cancel that dimension. Okay, we got that vertical constraint. I'll add that horizontal constraint. Make it 0.25. Remember, you can use escape to cancel dimensions, just so you know. This one's already vertical. See, you can see how it's already constrained. The best way to know like what is something going to do if it's not defined is clicking on it and moving it around. And you can see, oh, okay, it's constrained horizontally, but now we'll constrain it vertically. From here to the top face, looking to the side, here to the top, is 0.5. So I'm going to click here, add 0.5. Cool. Last one. Here to the side is going to be looking vertically, 0.75. From here to the side, 0.75. And from here to the top is also 0.75. So I'm going to add those last 2 dimensions, and we are done. Basically done. We have fillets to add now. Click check to confirm, extrude. Click on here, click remove, make it 0.1 depth. By the way, you can change the direction by clicking on this here. So let's say it removes. It's going to be like, oh, they don't intersect. Well, because you can't remove any material in this direction because there's no material out here. So you can click on this arrow here or this arrow there to change the direction. Press check to confirm. Voila. All our faces done. Now we'll add the fillet. Well, what is a fillet? If you look in our very handy dandy Discord, fillets round interior or exterior corners. If you look in day 4 in our day 4 thread, you'll find more information there. But you can see this R. The difference between R is a radius. So remember this icon up here, this is a diameter. This R is a radius. So the radius, if you imagine a circle over here, we're going to zoom in. If you imagine a circle, that's a very well drawn circle if you ask me. I'll try again, I can do better. This circle has a diameter or a radius. That's what the R is for. The R is for the radius of that circle. So it's going to be 0.10 radius. And times 12. Why is it times 12? Well, if you count, look. 1, 2, oh shoot, that's not what I meant to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's not what I meant to. There's 12 edges of the cube, I think. Yeah, there's 12 edges of the cube. So you add a fillet to all the edges with a radius of 0.10. That'll round all those corners. So I'm going to click on all the edges here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 edges of the cube. The radius of 0.1. Double check that in drawing. 0.1 times 12 edges. Click check. And voila. We have finished the very first CADvent drawing. Hopefully that made sense. And I'm going to go front, top, right. And look, it looks identical. It looks identical. We made it. We did it. Give yourself a pat on the back and a high five, because hell yeah, we did it. By the way, I'm going to show you another quick tool as a last huzzah. Just so you know, there is a tool down here called the mass and section property. So I'm going to click on this, and it's going to yell at me. It's going to say, one or more parts do not have a material defined. Well, we haven't defined a material. But what you can see here is this has a volume of 0.91 inches cubed, 0.909614 inches cubed. The volume, the amount of space it's taking up, is 0.19, not 0.91 inches cubed. And now you can, this tool is useful because you can see the mass of things. So let's say you were like, oh, this cube is solid aluminum. First of all, tough. That's awesome. You can click assign material. Let's say I wanted to make it aluminum. This is a little less relevant, but I search aluminum 6061 aluminum 6061, and that's just an alloy. Basically, it's a combination of metals, but it's aluminum. And I'm gonna click check because that tells you the density. You can know the density if you know how much space something takes up and how dense the material making it up is. You know how much stuff actually is there. You can calculate the mass. So this mass would be it would be about 0.09 pounds, which that's pretty heavy cube, pretty heavy guy there. But look, we did it. Congrats. Give yourself a major pat on the back if you got this far. Well done, dude. Well, I'm making this for someone. No, okay. Well done. Well done. 46, a little under 15 minutes. Not too bad. Not too bad. Thank you so much. Bye.